some highlights. You got an inheritance advantage. This is new. How did you feel about this? Did you have a plan with how you were going to use it?
So I was so excited about it. Like, you love to see something that's never existed before, something other players can't plan for. And then when I thought I had gotten an idol, suddenly with the inheritance advantage, that's basically like a boomerang idol, right? Like, if you play them both together, you get the idol back and you can do it again next time. So like the power that I thought those two brought together was so exciting and like so fun that also no one knows you're playing it. No one else knows it exists. You just get the idol back in your bag if you make it back to camp. So like the opportunity in that is so big and so secretive that it was exciting, but clearly didn't pan out. Hopefully someone else does it better someday.
So how would you have played it if it's completely secretly? How would you do that?
The way the mechanism works is when you vote, you have to put it in.
Okay.
So basically you're saying at the time you're voting, whatever advantages are played this tribal, if I make it through, I get them in my bag when I get home or when I get back to camp. So then you would place the inheritance advantage in the voting thing. Then you'd play an idol or like you don't, whatever. Advantages are played in tribal. Yeah. Then when you get back from camp, you get all of those and no one knows any of it happened.
That is very exciting. Tell me about the boat ride back, though, after you get the advantage and you have to come up with some sort of lie. I feel like I'd be terrified in this moment. How is it for you?
Oh, I am sitting there. Well, first off, it comes in these shells. Like, you could see us open the shell and they say you have to take them home. And I'm in like that little spandex outfit. And I'm like, where am I putting anything? So one, I was hiding the shells. Two, it's like, what lie makes sense? What lie like gives them enough information, is believable, but also like lets people in on the fact that like, I'm not going to have a vote. I don't want them to know that, but I also don't want my allies to be 100% blindsided, because like your allies need a plan, especially in a tribe of 5. It's not a tribe of 6 where like a 3 could be enough. So I make up that lie where I was like, we don't find out yet, making it similar to the 41-42 mechanism, but saying I'll find out at tribal council whether or not I have a vote. And in that way, your allies don't bank on your vote, but also your enemies can't plan on you to not have one. So I thought it'd be like a good enough lie to get me through. And then I figured if anyone else went to the island, then it could be something for us to bond over. Like if they had a similar experience there, I could be like, now we're buddies and we're both in on the secret.
Right. Your relationship with Helen and Carson seemed to be really strong at first. How were you feeling with them? Were you truly wanting to work with them?
Yeah. So I think that in Helen and Carson, we all kind of like think similarly. We're all 3 pretty like, much more like controlled in the way that we play, where I think, or like in just even the way we express ourselves, not even play. Where I think, Carolyn and Jam Jam are more expressive, more like, I think this, and I'm going to tell you right now. And like the 3 of us weren't as much that way. So I think in that way it was a connection. And I just loved both of them as people. I loved all of them, but like, it just seemed like an easy fit, like keep the young 3 of us together. And then not spend very much time together, because I think it was the first day. Helen has a job that I was like interested in, like, so I was talking to her a lot about it. And I think a lot of people were like, oh my God, they're like the exact same person. Like Sarah and Helen are like inseparable. So then Helen and I didn't talk after day 1. We would only talk through Carson, which was hilarious. But yeah, I did feel good with those 2. And it was also Jam Jam though, because at the Helen vote, a 2-2 split with like, I didn't have a vote. So we couldn't have possibly thought it was a 2-2 split with Carson in the middle. We thought Jam and Carson were voting with me and Helen.
Right. So after that vote though, and you realize your girl Helen is gone, and you're not in the best spot. How are you feeling at that time?
So I think that really I was like, well, shoot. I mean, obviously you're like, oh God. So didn't know this one was coming. But it was also like, I knew I had to make Carson feel a little bit guilty because he is like such a sweet person. And like, that's why I was like, your word carries less weight now, like just trying to like pull at the heartstrings a little bit. But I think as the game player in me, like respected it so much. It sucks that it was against me, but I wasn't like actually offended or hurt by it. But you are like, okay, we need to figure something out here. So I think in that really like dove into trying to like build the bonds with the tribe and like see where I could wiggle my way back in. And really just like present myself as like a reliable ally that was there for them.
What was your theory on this birdcage idol setup? Did you have a thought that someone had, who had it? What were you thinking?
Yeah, so there was the option that like someone had the idol that wasn't Helen, that just still had it and then maybe faked it, like did this Red X thing for fun. But then there was the theory that because Carson thought he'd seen Helen put the idol in her pants, he said.
Mm-hmm.
So if Helen had left with an idol, then we thought the Red X might have shown up as the way they were re-hiding an idol. Because we could see the bag was very much still empty. So there wasn't a new idol in the bag, but we thought maybe this is production's way of putting an idol back in the game that Helen went home with.
Mm-hmm.
So then when we saw the Red X, and then when I found it, then you have the bow, you have the paper, you have the whole thing, you have like the beads that weren't anywhere else on the island. So like a production made idol, and you see that and it's like, yeah, that looks like an idol.
Yeah. And you're not aware that like fake idols are a huge part of the season, right? This is the first time it's been this heavy. So you have to imagine it's a real idol, right?
Totally.
Yeah.
I've used this analogy, but like, it's like if you're playing poker and you have a two of clubs, it looks like a two of clubs, it reads like a two of clubs, and then you play it, say you have a full house, and they're like, that's not a two of clubs.
Yeah.
Pretty confusing.
Right.
So I think for this season, it creates, I think, like very honest confusion
Mm-hmm.
because per anything I had access to, that was an idol. But I think it'll be very interesting to see how it plays out in future seasons, because like right now, there's like 50% of the idols in the game are real, and they all read real, have a real note, are made by production, the whole thing. So in future seasons, then like when 45 and 46 go out to play, now they can't rely on an idol. They can't confidently say like, vote for me. I have an, like, you can't know who has an idol, what's real, unless everyone's cards are completely transparent on the table.
Yeah.
So that creates like
confusing.
a very new dynamic that I think will be more interesting on future seasons.
Very confusing when you kind of can't rely on production. You're like, this is so real.
Yeah. Right. Like facts aren't facts. Like,
yeah,
you don't know.
So when Josh shows up at your camp, you've been working on your social game with your other tribe mates. Do you feel like, woo, great, Josh is the new target in front of me? Do you feel better about your game, worse about your game? How are you feeling?
So as Carolyn, Jam, and I are standing on the beach watching Josh come up, we're like, that's not Carson, that's Josh. We need to stay together. And there's a secret scene online where like we'd also just had this like really good moment where like Carolyn shared with us like a lot about her life, and like we were kind of like sharing and connecting that like even though we're different, like like kind of coming together in a way. So when he came, I was like, this is a good moment for Tika to hold strong. And also Josh came in like with what felt like so many lies that I thought it was even more obvious that like he just had to go, because it felt like he was lying to us about everything. So to me, I was like, common enemy, this is perfect. Like we need to hold strong, the three of us together, and do what we can to deceive Josh into not playing an advantage for himself. Because I went up to Josh that afternoon and I was like, there's no way they sent you here alone without an idol. Like that would be the most unfair thing. And production's very fair. Like they designed the game not to like screw over someone like that. So obviously he didn't admit to having it, but we were all very set on like, it needs to be full deception for Josh not to play whatever we assumed he had.
When did you find out that your idol was not real?
I found out when everyone got home. And it was like this mix of like immense relief
Wait, when
because
everyone got home, like you stayed in Ponderosa with thinking you had an idol?
so initially 100% I
Oh,
thought that, and so like it was so hard to be like the regret, like the first like 3 nights I think I did not sleep at all, and I've
oh,
never experienced that before, but it's just like your dream that you were like so in and like playing 24 hours a day, like that's all your brain can think about, and then to think that I'd just like blown it with the power to save myself.
mhm.
um so in finding out that it was fake, I was like, this is a massive relief.
Yeah.
And then like that, so I'd say 99% was relief, and 1% was like, well, I'm gonna look like a fool, but that's better than regret. So,
Oh my gosh, holding on, like not knowing. Oh, that's
oh,
heartbreaking.
mhm.
What okay, so but now you did consider playing your idol. There was a little bit of concern, and you do see Josh play one. What is now the thought process to not play it?
So I think it was, so in that moment where you see Carolyn and Jam going back and forth, we'd all talked about, me, Carolyn, and Jam. We were like, we need to go in and we can't look unified. We
Mhm.
need to like bicker a little at tribal, like because we needed Josh to feel safe, is what me and Jam thought the plan was. So at first, when that started happening, I was like, good, checks out. This is the plan. And then I'm like, is this getting real? And that's the power of Carolyn, that like, it was like, is this becoming real now? Is she actually mad at Jam? And then after that fight, something that wasn't shown was Carolyn whispers to Josh, and they were like whispering for probably like a minute. And so in that moment, I'm like, even if the plan was me, she's changing it to Jam right now. Like
Mhm.
those two clearly just had whatever this fight was. And I was like, hopefully it's not me. I didn't know anything about her deal with him, about him playing the idol for her. Like I didn't know that was on the table. But
Mhm.
I thought that they could be switching it to him at that point because of the fight. Um,
Right. So why
so
wasn't it Jam Jam? Why was the vote you then?
so I think two things. One, Carolyn had never felt close to me.
Mm.
She and Jam like really were like BFFs. They like kind of fought like brother and sister out there, but
Mhm.
like loved each other so much. And Carolyn and I were like very different. I don't think she ever really liked me. And then so that was probably Carolyn's portion of it. And then Josh, um, I think I'd like come out questioning too much. Like when I was like, I know you have to have an idol. When I called him on the surgeon thing, stuff like that. Like, Sarah, you're playing a social game. Like, how don't you cool it? So I think that I was like too transparent with what I knew in that moment.
If you could sum up this entire experience in one word, what would it be?
A dream.
Oh, yay. Well, I can't wait for the reality show that is Ponderosa at this moment because you girls are fire.
uh, that was such a blessing. Those gals, like silver lining.
Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you. Good to meet you.